When another music lesson studio opens down the street, your first thought probably isn't, how wonderful for them, right? We generally get nervous thinking about new competitors. Today, Mandy and I are getting real about competition in music education. I'm sharing a personal story about how I navigated feelings of anxiety and insecurity with a competitor, and more importantly, how I learned to shift to a healthier view of competition. What I've discovered over time is that the studios that thrive aren't necessarily the ones that crush their competition. They're the ones that stay focused on their own growth and values. Stay tuned. If you're a guitar instructor and you've used one of the dozen or so popular method books, you've probably noticed that gap between what's in the books and what students actually want to learn. Most guitar students want to play their favorite songs, and that means strumming, chord changes, timing. If that stuff is even in those method books, it's usually way in the back. I put together the exercises in Complete Guitar Strumming to cover the foundational concepts that all guitar students need, but in a practical way that applies to their goals, which is playing their favorite songs. For instructors, the book comes with an instructor companion guide that walks you through best practices for teaching. I even have training videos that I've used with my own staff that you can access as well. The guide and the videos are free for anyone who wants to use the book for teaching. If you want to get really deep and understand the origins of the book, you can go listen to episode 50 of this podcast, or just head over to rockschoolproprietor.com/book for all the details. Welcome to Rock School Proprietor Podcast. My name is John Kazicki.
And I'm Mandy York.
Hey, how are you today, Mandy?
I'm doing all right. Very good. It's Friday, ready for the weekend. How about you?
Yeah, same. Are you ready to talk about competition? Speaking of competition, a Friday night, I'm going to a high school football game tonight because my daughter's on the cheerleading team. So...
Yeah.
And I guess I just put that two and two together in the spirit of like that healthy competition. Right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about competition. Where we operate our studios, well, technically speaking, I mean, there's overlap between our programs. You know, your studio and my studio within walking distance of one another. We're in the same town. There is some overlap with the oldest program, the kids that are in the oldest program that you offer, and the kids that are in the youngest program that I offer. So technically, we are in competition.
Yes. Yep, we are, technically.
Yeah. Now, competition, I think, is not always easy. Like we are demonstrating it in this instance. I think, have you ever felt, I guess, threatened when you've heard about a new studio opening up, or, you know, a program that might compete with your programs? And I don't know, have you ever felt that?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I think there are kind of different kinds of competition. We've known each other a long time. I met you when I first started out. And I think we have a healthy respect for each other and what we do. Yeah. And we share some students, right? I think I currently have at least one student that is also enrolled in your program, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. So, and we've talked about this before. Not every teacher, not every studio is a one size fit all. Maybe your Rock Starters program is a better fit for somebody, and then my Rhythm Kids is a better fit for somebody. But yes, there is other competition that makes me nervous and uncomfortable. Okay. A direct competitor, right? Okay. I can say that I have not, knock on wood, I suppose. I haven't had this happen yet in our town. But if there were another like licensed or franchised early childhood music program to open up near me, I'd come running to you probably first. Like, oh my gosh, they're moving in. What am I going to do? Right? You tense, you go on high alert, and you kind of, ready your battle plan. How am I going to make sure that I keep my students? And how do I make sure I'm better programming, tuition, like all of the things, right? Yes. Yeah. Right. It's that unknown. Yeah. Yeah. Like you see, hey, this other music studio is moving into town. You don't know anything about it.
You creep on their website, and like, oh, what are they offering?
Their website, their social media, all the things. Yeah.
Yeah, trying to gather as much info as possible, and that fear kind of sets in. So I have a story about when this happened to me. This was very, very early in my career as a studio owner. It was actually maybe a year, maybe two into opening my very first school. The school I run now is my second. And I was approached. Now it wasn't a situation where I knew someone was moving in, like so often, or like we just talked about.
Yeah.
But this was a situation where I was operating again for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And I got an email from someone, totally random, did not know this person. And he, and again, this was over a decade ago, said stuff like, hey, what you're doing is really impressive. I've also been thinking about opening up a similar studio with lessons and band programs. Would you be interested in meeting and talking? And I thought, okay, I don't know who this is, but I'll reply to the email. And there was a little bit of back and forth. And it was enough that I felt like, yes, I'll have a meeting with this guy. So I did set up the meeting. He came to my lesson studio, and in the conversation with him, I learned that he was kind of more of a hobby musician. He had a day job in, I believe, like software engineering or something. It was it was an office corporate type job. And the idea of him opening a performance school seemed like more of a side gig for him. He definitely seemed passionate about music, but again, I did not get the impression that this was what he wanted to do and like transition out of his
day job,
his career, right?
Right.
Whereas me, that was what I did, right? I was all in on my studio. And he had even told me that he had looked into the possibility of opening a pretty well-known franchise for rock band programs, which to me was interesting to get a little bit of that information from him. We had a couple of conversations, and I felt like he had a lot to learn about running music school, and in particular band programs. But he did understand, I think he understood business and numbers, and probably better than I did at that point. I also got the impression from those conversations that if he did move forward with opening a school, the understanding was it was not going to be in the same town. It was going to be one town over, or maybe more. I don't remember the details. Again, this was a long time ago, but I didn't feel like immediately threatened, right? Like, oh, now he's going to move in next door and we're in trouble. So the conversations were interesting because at one point he even offered like almost like some sort of partnership, but not so much like, hey, how about I come, run your school? It was more like, hey, if I do this, would you at all be interested in possibly like merging with me and partnering or coming to run my school or something like that? So I think he probably understood where my skill set lied. I don't know if I gave him enough credit where his skill set lied. But ultimately I was like, nope, not going to do it. I just don't see, a reason for me to jump ship on what I'm doing. And then maybe 6 months after that conversation, I saw he was opening up a half mile down the street from me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. I did not take it.
How did that?
I did not. Not well. No, I did not take it well. No. I felt like, there were all sorts of emotions, right? Like, oh, I had conversations with this guy, like, I let him into my school, and then now I felt betrayed. And
betrayal, yeah.
Yeah. And in hindsight, I think My confidence with the teaching and music, I felt like almost overly confident about it, and maybe underconfident about my understanding of how to run a business, because I was very new to running a business. I think at the time, I think I had 2 other instructors working for me, not like maybe 3. So very small operation. And I, I think instead of recognizing and respecting this guy's strengths and his perspective, in my mind, I immediately went to a place where I was trying to protect my shortcomings, right?
Mhm.
Oh, he doesn't know what he's doing with this. Like, now he wants all my information about this. And, now he's going to open up down the street. And I think that was a mistake on my part. I ultimately even kind of lost focus on what I felt like I should have been focused on. I was almost hyper fixated on trying to follow him and trying to get all that information, like we talked about. You go on the website and try and figure out what they're going to be offering and social media and all this other stuff. I even remember at one point doing these like crazy math calculations based on my rock band program and the prices and like the amount of time that students got in my band program, and comparing those with his prices and the amount of time that students were getting in his band program, and like down to the minute, right? Like thinking, okay, well, a kid who's in his band program is going to be paying this much money per minute, and the kid who's in my band program is going to be paying this much per minute, because like they were slightly different. So I had to find an equal way to compare them.
Yeah.
Never once even thinking, no parent's going to do that.
Yeah.
No parent is going to go on my website and calculate down to the minute, and then go on his website, calculate down to the minute, and make their decision based on that. That clearly was me just like losing my mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I get it though.
Yeah. So what I should have been doing is focusing on my programs, focusing on my clients. And it even got so bad that at one point, this was like shortly after he did finally open, there was a festival in our town, and I had students who were performing at it. And, we're out in public at the street festival, and there he was. And he came up to me and he talked to me, and I wasn't nice.
Ouch.
I know.
Yeah.
And I'm embarrassed to even say it, but I kind of made a scene. And turns out that one of the students at my school, their family was pretty close friends with him.
Okay.
And then the word got back to them, and they left my studio. And, I was just like shooting myself in the foot over this competitive thing that, in hindsight now, I mean, I definitely learned the lesson the hard way, right? So in hindsight, now looking back at it, I see so many places where I made mistakes. And, obviously, sometimes we got to learn those lessons the hard way, but I did not handle it well. And in the spirit of what we're going to talk about today, I thought, like, man, I'm just going to put it all out there. I'm going to like air my dirty laundry and explain this situation and how badly I screwed up. Yeah.
Well, you're right. We do learn the hard way a lot of times in these small businesses. And thanks for sharing your story. I get it. I don't, I think there's a lot of us that may not have done a lot differently.
So hearing that,
we need to talk about how
to do. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I don't think I've ever told you that story.
No, I haven't heard that before.
In hearing it,
I mean, you lived in another state.
I did.
Right?
Yeah. I lived in another state at that point. But in hearing that, I don't know, as an outsider, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I understand. Like, I can sympathize with that. Like, I feel like I would, well, and to be honest, I have. Like, I've calculated my per I don't know if it's per minute, per 30-minute rate,
Mm-hmm.
with,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have direct competitors here, but like I look at other children's programming as competitive, right?
Yeah.
Kids paying for different early childhood activities,
Right.
how much are they paying for that? And getting kind of obsessed with what's happening around me and who's doing what, and
Mm-hmm.
feeling the need to, like, oh, they're having like princess birthday parties. How can I incorporate that into, what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Not focusing on my own business, that
See,
I'm doing really well.
I appreciate you trying to make me feel better on that one. But I'm going to say I don't think there's anything wrong with checking competitors' pricing. I think I took it too far, right, with my weird
Sure.
calculations. I don't think there's anything wrong with looking at competitors and seeing like, oh, what extra fun events are they doing? And then figuring out a way to do something similar or cooler.
Yes.
That all sounds healthy to me.
Well, but you can, and I think you're going to cover this too. Like, competition can be healthy. You can learn a lot from other people, and you should
Exactly.
always
Exactly.
be learning from others, but don't lose sight of who you are.
Right.
Don't
Mm-hmm.
compete for the sake of competing.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
that's something that I, have, can lose focus on.
I look back on that experience for myself and think that I did not maintain a healthy perspective when it comes to competition. And that's exactly what I'd rather focus on in this conversation is like, well, how do you keep a healthy perspective in the face of competition? Because as having gone through that, having learned, I learned the lesson, like I am more than happy to talk to you or anyone else who offers music lessons in our community. I'm happy to talk to anyone the next town over who offers music lessons in our community. I'm even happy to like collaborate and do events because, and I think we'll kind of get into this because I've got some bullet points. I think that it's not only healthy, but I think it's beneficial to the entire community. And yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll get
For
into
sure.
it. So I've
Okay,
got some
what's your
bullet points.
first? Yeah.
Number one, compete with yourself first. Like really, there's no keeping score in music lessons, right?
Yeah.
So any sort of like scorekeeping that is going on, it's really just kind of made up in our heads. We really, this is competition 101, right? You go out there and you do your best. This is sportsmanship 101. Yeah, you want to win as a team, but you also want to support your team members and you want to do your best. So the healthiest competition, I think, is always that internal competition, measuring your own progress against past performances, not against other people externally. I've got a little note here to ask yourself, are we serving our customers better this month than we were last month? Are our systems more efficient than last year? So looking back, am I doing it better now than I was doing it before? Not necessarily like, hey, am I doing it better than this other guy over here who I really have no idea what their circumstances are? But yeah, I think when you compete with yourself, it creates a mindset where you're continually looking to improve yourself.
Yeah. I'm really into tracking.
Go
I'm
ahead.
really into tracking my metrics too.
Mhm.
I like doing that and competing with myself. Heading into the fall semester, spring semester. Okay, what were our numbers last year? So how many teachers do I have? What kind of classes do we want to offer? And then kind of project based on that, see, okay, I could bump it up by X number of students. And then compete with myself, push myself to reach that new number.
Yeah.
Right? I'm really into that. Now that's quantitative. That's not a qualitative metric,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
But I think what you're saying, it's important to look at those things too,
Yeah.
How are our students engaged differently, or analyze those things to make sure that you're also keeping true to your mission and you're pleased with the product that you're putting out.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever those metrics are, whatever like that goal is, I just truly think it should be in the spirit of like looking at what you're doing in your business, in your studio, and saying, okay, where can I improve? Because
Yeah.
then
Where's there room for growth?
you're maintaining that focus on what you do, regardless of who comes into town, like whether there's competition or not, focusing on what you do, constant self-improvement, that's always going to be beneficial. All right, number 2, next point I have, view competition as an opportunity to learn.
Uh-huh.
And then in quotes, I said, they're not your enemy. And that's what you said about like, oh, they're doing this cool event with like princesses or whatever. How can I do that? That's, that's an opportunity to learn. That's something that maybe you hadn't thought of. And that could spark an idea. It's not like you want to roll in there and like, oh, I'm going to be the only princess person here now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you learn like you can get ideas about, sure, classes, different ways, instruction, but also like logistical, or how are they organizing this? How do they charge? What is their website easier to use? Things like that. Yes.
Mm-hmm. If we're going
to spend time stalking these people, let's learn something about it, right?
Yes. And I'm going to stick with the princess event theme because I love it. So you also don't know. So in that scenario, right, the competitors offering like princess parties, you don't know if their princess parties are even successful. You just see that they're doing it, right, or offering it. So, does it make sense to try it out? Sure, maybe, but they may be in that exact same space, right? And you can use that as feedback on what your market wants. Does your market even want princess parties?
Yeah.
And
right.
then,
and that's kind of what I touched on too, is like, you think about this. Is princess parties what is going to be good for your business, right?
Right.
Because I've done that. I've gotten caught up in something, and then I've thought, no, that's not who I am. That's not what I want to do.
And if no one else in the
doing,
community,
I'm doing it well.
And if no one else in the community wants princess parties, well, then all of a sudden there's 2 places in town that are offering princess parties.
There you go.
That no one wants. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, you have to, gauging what your community wants. Like, what are your customers responding to? Refine your offerings. Don't just all of a sudden offer princess parties because they're offering princess parties. But you're right on. But this also can spark your own creativity. You may see, oh, they're offering princess parties. Princess parties aren't really my thing. Could we do a play on it?
But I have so many train songs, and my kids love trains.
There you go.
We're going to do a train-themed music event.
Yeah, and you're going to, and I happen to know we have train tracks that run right through our town, and we're going to plan it right in the park where the train tracks go by, and then it'll be the big finale. Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
That's when the good stuff happens, when you see someone else doing something and it sparks your own creativity. Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to my number 3 point. And these all kind of overlap, but stay focused on what you do best. Like you said, princess parties. You don't even want to do princess parties. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, not my thing.
Right. And this is really about also knowing what your core values are for your studio. What do you do best, right? I mean, I definitely hear it a lot from other studio owners. because of what I do with rock bands, I'll hear from studio owners who don't offer rock band programs in their studio. And then all of a sudden that well-known franchise is going to move in and they sort of tense up. Oh no, they're going to move in and I need to offer rock band programs too. I mean, I can say this about rock band programs. If you're not passionate about it, if it's not something that you feel like you want to offer or you have someone in your studio who can do it well, it might not go so good for you. And that goes a little bit back to my story in a more gentle way, right? When I was in that situation, I felt like I do this really well. I'm good at it, a little bit overconfident. This guy doesn't know what he's doing with this. He's going to fail. That was kind of my mindset. But I kind of got off track here, but being reactive to this kind of stuff means that you're focusing your resources and your energy where they might not need to be. If you're a more traditional studio and you feel threatened by that rock band program moving in, well, might not make sense, but what can you do to double down on what you are good at? So staying focused on core values.
Yeah, we can't be everything to everybody. I feel like we've talked about that before, right?
Mm-hmm,
so you do what you do best and let someone else do what they do best.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Number 4, I think we'll talk a little bit more about this one. Maintain an abundance mindset. A bit of a buzzword, right? The abundance mindset versus the scarcity mindset. What do you think of when I say maintain an abundance mindset?
Well, I mean, a little bit like we just said. No, I mean that there's room for everyone. It's a more positive outlook, right?
Yeah.
When you've got that. And that not viewing competition as a negative when I think of abundance mindset, right?
Yeah. Think about this. In our town, you and I, for the most part, we've got a pretty good idea of who offers music programs.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's kind of a lot, to be honest. There's a lot of people who offer just private lessons. There's your program. There's my program. There's a couple of other lesson studios within probably 5 miles of us. Mm-hmm. We also don't know how many private instructors are out there offering lessons in their home, right? Or offering programs in churches that we don't know about. Point being is that there's probably a lot of competition out there that we don't even know about, and we're still doing fine.
Yeah.
So in any service industry, I think there's an abundance of clients, and I don't think it's one of these really scarce resources. So I think maintaining that abundance mindset, when you take that approach, that can also lead to the idea of collaboration and how collaboration can raise the bar for everyone in your community, right? Yeah. We collaborate all the time. We recommend one another all the time. I think that's mutually beneficial. Yeah. Yes.
We know there's enough to go around.
Right. Sometimes families choose your program. Sometimes families choose my program, as you mentioned. Mm-hmm. Sometimes families choose both.
Both, yeah.
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 But that collaboration can be a benefit. I've done performances. Now, this isn't direct competition, but I've done performances with other rock schools in our Metro Detroit area, and I absolutely loved it. I would consider that those people who run that school my friends. Competition can also raise the standards again for the entire community. Mm-hmm. Maybe not get too much into the pricing thing, but that scarcity mindset and kind of that mindset that I got into, I immediately went to, I have to be the lower, my prices have to be lower because I think that's what everyone's going to be focused on, which is not true.
Right.
But if there are two people in a community offering similar programs, right? And like I bump my prices up a little bit, that allows them to bump their prices up a little bit, right? So, not extremes, but I think that's collectively going to raise the bar and the standards for everyone in the lesson space, if we're talking about lessons or whatever that service is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. I got one more point. And that point is about protecting your own mental health.
Important.
I don't
Yes.
think I did that in my situation.
No. Be kind to yourself. Don't do to yourself what John did.
No. I even have on here, unhealthy obsession with competition can breed anxiety, burnout, guilty. I lived that for sure. Healthy approach to competition, I think, will keep you motivated and wanting to do more rather than those negative things.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Avoid the comparisons for sure.
Celebrate
Focus on what you
wins.
do best. Yeah.
Celebrate wins, big and small, because they're important. And I think when we celebrate those wins, what that does is it's like our own mini gratitude practice, right? And then like when you've got that gratitude practice in place, again, I think that then leads into the abundance mindset. Got to stay away from those negative thoughts.
Yes. Yep. I love it. And I feel like, clearly, as you know, more than 10 years later, you're much better at this. I feel like I am too. You're more focused on what you're doing well and celebrating your successes and not, beating yourself up over a slow semester or, some new program that's moved into town that you're super worried about.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest takeaways for me from living through that experience is I was very quick to write off any strengths that this competitor had. And I really think for me that was that came from me feeling threatened, and maybe insecure about my business experience compared to my teaching experience. Again, because I felt really confident with the teaching and the programs I was offering, but again, really new to running a business, really new to having a team of employees. I felt insecure about that. So again, I think my biggest learning point from that experience was I should have looked at this guy's experience as, again, something to learn from and a way to examine myself and say, okay, these are the things, these are the areas where I feel like I am probably at a disadvantage or I am not as capable as this guy. Yeah. And instead of addressing those things and saying, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to learn how to do these things better, I just sort of ignored it,
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I get that.
All right.
Yeah. On the flip side too, don't get caught up if anyone else is treating you as competition. If you're on the other side of that kind of negativity, right?
Good point. That's that's something I hadn't even thought about, but we've all been the new players in places at one point. We have all been the new guys moving into town, and someone else was probably looking at us in that same way.
Yes. So, maybe be gracious, be understanding, but I think this is probably part of the mental wellness thing. Don't get caught up on that side of it either.
Yeah.
Focus on your business. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to tell a quick story.
Yes.
I know we're wrapping up. I know.
No.
But this happened to me not too long ago in a town, 20, 30 minutes from here. I have a handful of students that attend from this town because there aren't early childhood music programs in that area. So I do have clients that come from there. I had a music school reach out to me I used to do private lessons, but they wanted to break into the early childhood thing. And, wanted to ask me about the program I use and get some advice. And I because I would say, so I had an abundance mentality about the whole thing. And they're not moving in 30 minutes or half a mile from me, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And they already have a studio location. So I went in and had a couple conversations, wanted to educate them on how the program works. Now, this was like the business partner for this school, not the musically minded like teacher. Okay.
Yeah.
And there was kind of a disconnect in that way. And he wondered if I would come on and teach as they were getting started, and wondered about sharing teachers, which for the record, I'm all about. You and I have shared teacher before too.
Yeah,
like I think that's great. But, as meeting upon meeting, trying to think about this and talk about how I might be compensated for my input, it just became more and more clear that like they kind of wanted me to set this up for them. And they also thought that like, well, we'll offer 8 classes this first semester. And I'm like, it's hard to get classes up and running in a brand new, didn't think they understood how it was all going to work. But that was a moment. And it wasn't negative, but that was a time when I just removed myself and I was like, I don't think I have the time to put into this,
Yeah.
I had expected them to bring more to the table, thought maybe they would have an early childhood teacher ready to go. And so I backed off. And they never opened a program. So, collaboration is great. Know your boundaries, take care of yourself. But yeah, almost a similar situation with this guy wanting you to become a partner in things.
Yeah.
You gotta take care of you and your studio, collaborate when you can. It wasn't a matter of competition. It was, it would have been a little bit of competition, but like I said, they're far out there. And it was just, I think that you're asking more of me than I can give. So
and so you came at that from the perspective of like staying focused on what you do best, right? And there were some other things involved, but good job. You did it.
I said
right,
no.
Well, yes.
Saying no is hard.
All right. Well, we will wrap this one up. We'll talk to you next time, Mandy.
Yeah. Thanks, John.
All right. Bye.
See you later.
If you have topic suggestions or questions, please contact us at info@rockschoolproprietor.com. We'd love to hear from you and hear suggestions for future shows. We've put together some free resources for teachers and studio owners over at rockschoolproprietor.com and a private Facebook group called The Modern Music School. Please join us over there. On social, I'm at rock.school.proprietor on Instagram and John Kazicki on both LinkedIn and Blue Sky. Your ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify are always appreciated. And if you enjoyed the show and gain insight from our conversation, then we count that as a win. All we ask in return is that you pay it forward, and please share the show with someone you think needs to hear it.